Writer Jean Carroll declaring victory after a jury ordered former President Donald Trump to pay her more than $83 million in damages for repeatedly defaming her. And now Trump's sole remaining primary opponent is speaking out. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the latest.
Another victory for writer Jean Carroll in her long-running defamation battle against Donald Trump. The former president now facing a staggering $83 million in damages. Carroll saying in a statement, "This is a great victory for every woman who stands up when she's been knocked down, and a huge defeat for every bully who's tried to keep a woman down." Mr. Trump vowing to appeal the jury's verdict, taking to Truth Social, saying this is not America. His attorney blasting the judge, saying the deck was stacked against her client from the beginning.
Before I walked into court, that judge decided that every single defense President Trump had, we were not allowed to raise in front of the jury.
Carroll first came forward in 2019, saying he sexually assaulted her in a department store dressing room in the 90s. He told reporters she was a liar.
What she did is it's terrible. What's going on? So it's a total false accusation, and I don't know anything about her.
It's those words from Mr. Trump and his social media posts that followed that kicked off the entire lawsuit. Carroll alleging he unleashed a torrent of threats online from Trump supporters and tarnished her reputation. In May, a different jury found Mr. Trump had sexually abused Carroll and defamed her after he was no longer president, awarding her $5 million. This second jury left only to decide how much he should have to pay for what he said about her while in office. The jury returning their unanimous verdict after fewer than 3 hours of deliberations Friday. Mr. Trump's main political rival also taking note, Nikki Haley saying in part, quote, "Donald Trump wants to be the presumptive Republican nominee, and we're talking about $83 million in damages. We're not talking about fixing the border. We're not talking about tackling inflation."
All right, now thanks to Laura Jarrett for that report. Well, here's Donald Trump's final desperate attempt at a defense when he took the stand in the Jean Carroll defamation lawsuit trial. Asked if he intended to harm Carroll by defaming her and denying her allegations despite having been found liable for sexual abuse, he replied, quote, "I just wanted to defend myself, my family, and frankly, the presidency." Joining me now, Stephanie Grisham, former Trump White House Director of Communications and Press Secretary, and former Chief of Staff and Press Secretary to former First Lady Melania Trump. Very good to see you again, Stephanie. Let's get into this. First of all, how do you think Trump reacted to the jury award behind the scenes, and what do you think is happening in his immediate orbit right now on this?
I actually thought immediately I would not want to be anywhere near him when the verdict came in or the award came in for Jean Carroll. I can't imagine how angry he was. I kind of took to X about it, and I was lighthearted saying we should keep the ketchup away from him because he's known for throwing things. But I would not want to be anywhere near him. And I did find it interesting that Alina Habba, his attorney, went out and went immediately to the press. And, you know, she was very upset, you could tell, but I think she was performing for one man because I imagine that he's going to blame, you know, poor representation, in addition to, of course, blaming the judge and blaming the jury from New York. But I'm sure they're fundraising off of it now today. He's probably going to continue to whine about what a victim he is today. But behind the scenes, there's no way that he's happy about this.
Oh, yeah. Blames everybody but himself. The fact that he was continuing to defame her, it really is illogical. But then again, we're talking about him. So he says that he was defending the honor of his family and the presidency. You were in the White House at that time. What do you say to that?
Look, I mean, it's out of his playbook. He was not defending himself in the most natural of terms. He was trying to undermine a woman that a jury found him liable for sexually abusing. So he was trying to undermine, as he always does, anybody who, you know, tries to stand up to him or tell the truth about him or fight him. He tried to undermine her. That was a tough time in the White House. I recall sitting in the Oval Office with him. I wrote about this in my book, and we were talking about it, about her. And of course, he was saying that he wouldn't touch her because she was so unattractive. It wasn't that, you know, oh, I'm a married man, I would never do that. I'm a good person. It was just how unattractive she was. And I recall him telling me, you know, all you do is deny in these situations, Stephanie. You just deny everything all the time, right? And I remember specifically feeling like that was a test for me because he stared me down when he asked me that. And he knew, of course, was very close to Melania at the time. So that was one of many different women who had allegations against him. And it was a tough time in that White House just because of my relationship with Melania.
Look, you mentioned her. Do you think that Melania was possibly his target audience in all of this? Everything that he said, all the denials? I mean, is he speaking to a party of one in some ways?
I think so. It's my understanding that she has been really pressuring him to go out there and defend himself in this particular case. So I think absolutely that he's probably trying to defend himself with her, but also he's running for president. So he's wanting to make sure that, you know, he's using this to his advantage. And as I said earlier, fundraising off of it and whining about how the system is, you know, so stacked against him.
But let's face it, money is so important to him. Do you expect this sizable award is finally going to make him stop talking about E. Jean Carroll? Does he have the ability to rein himself in?
He's got the ability to do it for, you know, a few hours or perhaps a few days. No, is my short answer. I don't think that he'll be able to. I think he's speaking today, so it's going to be interesting if he can keep his mouth closed about that. He's certainly already said he's going to appeal. I would hope that his attorneys and that, you know, his family are all telling him, you need to stay quiet, because it's my understanding that she can continue to just sue him again if she wants to. I don't know that I would want to put myself through that if I were her. But the short answer is no. I don't think he can. He cannot control himself. It's something that we've watched now for, 6 years in the political world.
Let's talk about when Trump won in New Hampshire on Tuesday. I mean, in what should have been a victory speech, he turned really hostile toward Nikki Haley in a way that some would argue was misogynistic, that was crass. Here's just a little bit of that. Take a listen.
Who the hell was the imposter that went up on the stage before and claimed a victory? I find in life you can't let people get away with bull, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won.
I mean, Stephanie, her dress. I mean, do Trump voters care about Haley's dress, or do they relish his snarky comments?
Absolutely, they relish his snarky comments. It was such an interesting split screen when you consider what he was like after the Iowa caucuses. He was very calm. He was very gracious towards DeSantis. He was very gracious towards Vivek. Of course, they had fallen in line and done what he wanted. So I think, that's why he was obviously being gracious to them. But it was such a different speech. And clearly she has gotten under his skin, especially with the reports that the Republican National Committee was going to potentially make him their nominee. And I understand he was behind that. So, the fact that she is still out there and still fighting, good for her. I wish she would have done it, sooner, obviously. I was disappointed that she yesterday didn't acknowledge that E.G. Carroll, was he was found liable for sexually abusing her. She's just talking about the $83 million. However, keep going, keep fighting him. He needs to have somebody do this so that people can continue to see who he really is. In the primary, do I think it's going to work? No, I think he's probably going to be the nominee, but I still think it's fundamentally important for the rest of the country to start seeing him again, and how he is towards women and how he is towards anybody who dares cross him.
I want to play an exchange. It's between Donald Trump and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. It was on the stage that night. Let's watch this.
Did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's good.
What do you make of this?
I mean, honestly, I was disgusted. I was so disappointed in Tim Scott when he went ahead and endorsed Donald Trump. But for that to happen on stage, it was a reminder of when we in 2016 had won and he being Trump was interviewing people for cabinet positions. And I recall a time when he took Senator Romney to a restaurant in New York, and he had me bring the press in and get a picture of them eating dinner. And it was because Romney was maybe going to get a position in the cabinet, as I said. And then Trump ended up just leaving Senator Romney on the sidewalk with no job. And that is exactly what it reminded me of when I saw him do that to Tim Scott. It's just his exercises in humiliation. And, you know, everybody should know that you can go ahead and endorse him and do all these things, and he will never, ever be loyal to you. He will never repay you with anything but humiliation, and eventually you'll get thrown under the bus in some way. So I hope that few minutes was worth it for Tim Scott. You know, I'm sure he's angling for a VP job or a cabinet position, but I mean, the whole thing was truly pathetic, and I was embarrassed for him.
Stephanie Grisham, we always appreciate your candor and coming on the show, our friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
Into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, what is it now, please? Okay, couple of things. I wanted low on the double. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion.
Security teams bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside.
Deeds.
Give me an update on that reserve. What's readiness? What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy, sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark aircraft.
General! General!